Fire officials are still looking into what caused this fire. It happened outside, and luckily none of the residents were home and most of the house was saved. How long can a defendant hold off death row? For cases like Eric Boyston, his mental condition can hold off the sentence forever. That leaves courts like the Arizona Supreme Court trying to define mental disabilities, a large gray area. American Airlines is experiencing delays and cancellations across the United States, and what happens on the East Coast affects people here in Arizona. The different cities that make up District 5 are about as different as the toppings on this pizza. You have parts of Chandler, Mesa, and Gilbert coming together to decide local issues. A man's state of mind is the only thing standing between him and death row. Today, the Arizona Supreme Court met to decide the mental condition of Eric Boyston. In 2004, Boyston shot 2 members of his family, then stabbed a man to death. The courts gave Boyston a triple death sentence in 2010. This morning, Boyston's attorney is trying to repeal the sentencing. David Goldberg says the state has taken away Boyston's constitutional rights and not really looked at his mental well-being.
That's what we're saying. You're depriving him, obviously, of a defense, and you're depriving him of his 6th, 14th Amendment rights.
How long can a defendant hold off death row? For cases like Eric Boyston, his mental condition can hold off the sentence forever. That leaves courts like the Arizona Supreme Court trying to define mental disabilities, a large gray area. Cases like this one are being heard in another part of the country as well. The Supreme Court in Washington is asking whether Ernest Gonzalez can hold off the death sentence without the mental ability to present evidence. Both of these cases have Arizona local Asia Hood seeing a trend.
And I've seen lots and lots of cases where the defense is pleading that the defendant has a mental illness in order to reduce the penalty that the defendant receives. There needs to be some defined rules around what is and what isn't mental illness, and that's going to be really hard for the legal system because the psychological system still doesn't know. The mental health system is still defining that.
For NewsWatch, I'm Brian Wise, reporting. It's election season. October 3rd is the first time Arizona watches the 2012 party policies go head-to-head, and local candidates here in the Valley are just as excited.
And you get demographics out to vote that you haven't before.
It impacts their lives more than it ever has before, I think.
Matt Salmon and Spencer Morgan are District 5 candidates running for Congress in Arizona. Last election, 52 million watched the debates out of 130 million voters. Many of these voters are reached by local candidates, like Morgan talking to these students or Salmon meeting these voters at the pizza parlor. The different cities that make up District 5 are about as different as the toppings on this pizza. You have parts of Chandler, Mesa, and Gilbert coming together to decide local issues. But do candidates in this area feel like voters are connected to them or more to the national debates?
Now, local is always important, but I think that given all the pain that we've been through in this country, I think people are more focused on national politics right now.
Well, I think they need to know that they're heard, that there's someone in Washington willing to listen to them, that when they write a letter or they pick up the phone, that their voice isn't falling on deaf ears.
One thing remains the same between these local and national candidates. They are all trying to get the public vote. For NewsWatch, I'm Brian Wise, reporting.